Welcome. In front of me is a OnePlus 12 and today I'll go over unboxing along with a quick look at this brand new flagship from OnePlus. So anyway, let's just get straight into it. Never settle. We'll see about that one. No case, unfortunately, in the box, and that's about everything that we get. We do have some kind of card. Let's take a look at what's that. It's the certificate of authentication or whatever. Scan or something to gain benefit, whatever. Anyway, let's pop that out. I guess I'm just gonna do it this way. This looks pretty nice. Now luckily, OnePlus decided to include a charger in the box, and not a puny one. This is a 100-watt charger, so that's really good. And also we get the cable, type C to type A. So unlike Samsung, OnePlus still thinks that with your device that you pay over $1,000 for, you still deserve a charger, so you can actually use the device once it dies. Something that Samsung, I guess, haven't figured out. Because, you know, spending $1,000 on a Samsung phone isn't enough. You still need to spend another like $50 on a charger. Because of the environment, apparently. In any case, let's put up the device right here and get a look at the display. There we go. So starting off with the display, this is a 6.8-inch display running a resolution of 1440 by 3168. LTPO AMOLED, meaning that it can crank up the resolution, or not resolution, but the refresh rate up to 120 when you need it, and drop down all the way to, I believe, 1 frame per second when you don't need the actual like additional refresh rate. Now additionally, it also has Dolby Vision and HDR10 Plus certification, along with a this can't be right, whopping 4500 nits peak brightness. Okay, if you like staring into the sun, which is your phone, then that's fantastic. You might want to utilize something like sunglasses for those. Now, the typical brightness of this device is about 600 nits, which is a little bit more on a reasonable kind of level. And it gets up to 1600 nits, I believe, like when you max out the slider. Now the 4500 nits is just on a rare occasions, and this is not the brightness that the device will be running at all the time, so something to keep in mind. Usually devices do crank up the brightness above average when, for instance, you go outside and direct sunlight. They will do that, and you sometimes might notice that you get like bright display and then after like couple minutes just kind of dims down. That's normal. And I assume that's what you will be experiencing right here. Now, almost done with the setup. There we go. Now UI and the Android of this device obviously is the typical Oxygen OS. Now this is the Oxygen OS 14. In China you actually get Color OS for this device, and it is running on top of the Android 14. So let's flip it over and see the back. So we have a triple camera setup right here. The main sensor is a 50 megapixel wide sensor, then you got a 64 megapixel periscope and 48 megapixel ultra wide. Obviously we have the Hasselblad marking right here, the collaboration, and with these cameras at the back you can record videos at 8K 24 frames, and at 4K you can do 30 and 60, and obviously 1080p, all that, plus slow motions. Then as a selfie at the front we have a 32 megapixel wide sensor. And continuing on with the build quality of this device, we have a Gorilla Glass Victus 2 at the front. Then at the back we have Gorilla Glass, not Victus, aluminum frame, and that's about everything. And alright, oh, that's the glass back, though I believe there is a version of it which might not have glass at the back. if it comes with like eco leather. Let me quickly just double check. Oh, never mind, no such indication. Okay, continuing on, the device apparently has IP65 waterproof and dust-proof rating, so that's pretty nice. And next on, around the device, we have an IR blaster, which is very surprising for a flagship device like this one. Usually that's reserved for like Xiaomi devices that come at like $500 and a little bit higher, but we do have that here. Now if you're wondering what this is for, it's used to control appliances around the house that use a remote control that is controlling devices via infrared light. Now, great case for this would be something like going into a hotel, not finding a remote control for the AC unit, just whip out the phone, use the application, pair it up, and you can now control the AC unit with your phone. Pretty nice. Now, on the side we have our, we have our power button along with the volume rockers. Then at the bottom we have our Type-C port, speaker grills, and our SIM tray, which, if I'm correct, only supports SIM. Yep, so that's a dual SIM card. You don't have the option to expand the storage right here. And then on the left side we have our little slider for mute, vibrate, and loud. And that's about everything around the device. Additionally, we do have a fingerprint sensor that is mounted under the display. Now, last thing that I didn't mention is the internals of this device. So it comes with a 5400 mAh battery with that 100-watt charger. We are looking at a charging speed of about from 1 to 100% in below an hour, 55 minutes. That's advertised. Now, apparently, US is getting a 80-watt charger, so keep that in mind when buying this device in US. You're not going to get a 100-watt charger. Apparently, you're going to get an 80-watt charger, which kind of sucks. I mean, it's still great. It's still leagues ahead of what Samsung offers, but it sucks that you get inferior charging speed while probably paying the same amount for your device. That kind of part sucks. And oh right, I did say that charging speed from 1 to 155 minutes. That's for 50-watt charger or charging speed. If you charge it at full 100 watts, that's 26 minutes full charge. So I assume in the settings you can probably tone down the charging speed. Now the reason you might want to do that is the faster you charge your battery, the more wear it's gonna experience. So the faster you'll need to replace it, and the quicker it's gonna kind of degrade and hold less charge. So that's beneficial to not charge your device at this kind of speed, which if you don't need to, you can utilize that most of the time by just using a third-party cable. Anyone that you have probably laying around your house will significantly charge your device significantly slower. So just don't utilize the cable that comes provided, and that should be a good to go already option without needing to go into the settings. But if you want to, I'm pretty sure in the battery settings you'll have an option to reduce the charging speed. Now, continuing on, this device is being powered by a Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which is the newest Snapdragon on the market right now. Obviously the fastest one. It's going to be blazing through everything that you throw at it, and probably the only thing that it's bested by is going to be the Apple Silicon, which Apple Silicon is designed specifically for their crappy devices, so hence you would expect it to succeed in powering their devices at a faster being faster with just their proprietary everything, while Android is catering towards basically plethora of devices, plethora of manufacturers, along with the Snapdragon basically doing the same. So it's still a fantastic processor. Now, continuing to the internals, in terms of like RAM and storage, this device starts at 256 gigs of storage with 12 gigs of RAM, which surprisingly enough is more, at least RAM for certain, than MacBooks come with by default. And that being said, MacBook that is spec'd out gets 16. This device spec'd out gets whopping 24 gigabytes of RAM with 1 terabyte of storage, which is absolutely insane for a phone. Now, it's really nice, but this is the kind of thing that manufacturers started doing because they can crank up the price for people that just want to get the best of the best. Reality is here, you will never need more than 12 gigs of RAM. This device isn't big enough to allow you to multitask with significant amount of applications at the same time for you to need more than 12 gigs of RAM. And 12 already is a substantial enough amount. 24 is just stupid. Now, the reason you have the option here, just to kind of explain this, is because manufacturers charge you an absolute freaking premium for the RAM. RAM usually doesn't cost that much for, as an example, computers and stuff. So I'm presuming it's the same thing here when they're buying this RAM. All they need to do is just slam more onto the motherboard. It's not upgradable, so it's not like you can upgrade it yourself later on. And obviously they buy it at a penny at a dozen, so they can just slap on that. But then they will charge you 10 times more for the RAM, which is kind of what Apple does. Obviously they're soldering on 8 gigs to the motherboard. You can't upgrade it, but if you could buy it at half the price. That's why you can't. It's solder on. And same thing goes for the phones nowadays. But reality is you won't need 24 gigs of RAM. Hell, a foldable device that can multitask doesn't need 24 gigs of RAM. So something to just kind of stay away. It's just a kind of marketing scheme from manufacturers that just want to, you know, fleece you all of your money. So this basically concludes the overview of this device. The base model of this device, I would presume, or at least for me, is going to be the sweet spot. Obviously the starting point. It's going to be the cheapest, and this device isn't necessarily like actually that expensive. It comes at about $800 if that is correct. Though keep in mind you need to add in tax because that's dollars. It costs about 1,000 euros, which that's already taxed. So that's more typical price for a flagship device. And for $1,000, getting a 256 gigs of storage and 12 gigs of RAM, I would say is a fantastic starting point. And obviously all the parameters here are flagship specs, so that's also great. And in certain cases, this device will outperform Samsung's, which again, they come with a higher price tag. So that's already a very nice thing, having a bigger battery and faster charging. That's like a, you know, one massive improvement over Samsung's. And other than that, personal preference, I really like the Oxygen OS that OnePlus is using over the Samsung. It's personal preference, but obviously if you're catering more towards the Oxygen OS looks and options, then not only do you get to save a little bit and get something that in certain cases is better, but also have a nicer experience with the OS. Now that being said, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.